I want to go back now. You and I have had a chance, and right before you got on the air, I kind of opened up with the fact that you came when we first were introduced to each other. You kind of came in with a chip on your shoulder and a little bit of an attitude, and I was born with a chip on my shoulder and a little bit of an attitude. So our first interactions were not bad, but it was a little remote.
They were detrimental to my career for sure.
But
I'm taking ownership of that, Eric. You know what I mean? I don't want you to think that I'm suggesting that it was.
No, believe me, I'm pretty self-aware. I know I'm harder than hell to get along with most of the time. But when we finally got a chance to work together, and what I recall was I think it was a match that it was a program that you were involved with Sting, and that's when I saw in you what you described just a little bit earlier, is you really had a desire to find a performance, not just to do a great job in the ring physically, because obviously that is a part of a great performance, but you really wanted to understand the character. You really wanted to kind of capture the emotion that particular program embodied, and that's to me, that's where you really stood out. And I really realized your potential there.
Well, I appreciate that. I still look at that as the high point for me, from a professional and a personal standpoint, because I hold Steve in such high regard, especially because he really spoke up for me when he didn't need to. Long before, I say long before, before you came to TNA as well, he was almost from the beginning, saw something in me, and was always encouraging them to give me a shot. And I mean, I remember I was in the British invasion. This was in 2009, and I remember back then they would send the formats out by email to the talent, the day before the taping, so that they could sort of get familiarized with what was going on. And I remember seeing on the format, I was boarding a plane, and it said, Doug Williams and Rob Terry versus, the Dudleys or whoever. And I remember thinking, that's weird. Like, why is it not me? And I was starting to think, oh God, like they're demoting me, I'm going to just be like a manager, or you know how wrestlers are, they're paranoid. Obviously I was 22 at the time, so I was very immature. And I was like flipping through the pages, and I'm starting to get towards the main event, and I'm going, well, I'm not in the main event, So, and then I get to the main event, and sure enough, there it is. It's me and Sting, and I just. It was just like a 5-minute TV match on Impact or whatever, but
yeah, but still, that's a pretty big damn deal.
I sat there in my seat for like an hour just holding this piece of paper. You know what I mean? I didn't say a word. I just sort of had this. I must have had the dumbest look on my face. If anyone walked past, they must have just thought, like, "What's this guy taking?"
What a great moment, though, right? That had to be really special.
I just remember sitting there going, like, this. Why? Like, what the hell? And, and, I'm sure that Steve had something to do with that, because, it was really just I like, looking back at it now, obviously understanding a lot more than I did then, it was really just a match to get Sting back on track, because I think he had a match with Joe at the pay-per-view. I can't remember what the finish was or whatever, but, it was a reset, match to sort of get Sting back where he needed to be, and I was more than happy to oblige. And I remember just watching all my favorite Sting matches, like his matches with Flair, and his matches with Rick Rude, and his match with Hogan, and I was just thinking and going, okay, I'm going to make sure I go and just give Steve like the best 5 minutes that I can give him, you know what I mean? And I sat down with him, and like Jim Cornette was the agent, and I like Jimmy a lot now, but he did not think very highly of me back then. I came in with this sort of reputation as like Dixie's favorite, Dixie's hire, and like no one really knew where I'd come from and stuff. So it just I was battling uphill a lot. But so Jim was, Jim, as you know, can be quite abrasive, and he was very sort of short and curt with us. And sat down and we just went, "All right, kid, like shut your mouth, and we'll piece this together, and we'll just let you know when we need to plug you in." And then Steve was the one who kind of put Corny in his place and sort of said, "Actually, Jim, we've already had a bit of a chat, and I really like his ideas. I think I want to do what he suggested." And
that didn't help. That didn't help anything for you, by the way.
No, absolutely. I'm sure it didn't.
It probably did in that match, and it probably made you feel great in that particular moment.
It did.
But adding to the baggage that you already, I mean, you're a big, well-built, good-looking guy, and you're young. Right off the bat, 75% of the locker room is going to be uncomfortable with you. Just walking through the door.
And then compound that with the fact that, everyone knew that basically I got seen because the backstory of this, I've told this before, but the Cliff Notes version, that AJ was on the cover of FSM, and it was the first time that FSM is the top UK independent wrestling magazine, and AJ was on the cover, and it was the first time that a TNA guy had been on the cover. They always had WWE guys on the cover, and it was a real indication that TNA was really making its mark in the UK market. And in that same issue, there was like an 8-page feature on me because I had been on TV for Gladiators, and we were doing very good numbers. So Dixie saw that magazine and basically called the editor and said, "Can you put me in touch with this guy?" So they did, and that was how I got signed. But obviously, that's great, me capitalizing on an opportunity. But, obviously by the time it gets through the, telephone, telegram, telewrestler, it's like, Dixie found this guy in a magazine, and she just, you know what I mean? She just, and so I came in with such an uphill battle. Like, honestly, that's probably my biggest achievement in TNA, was finally being able to battle against that, and keep my job rather than just be another sort of, oh, this is a Dixie project. But going back to the angle that Sting and I did in 2013, I do remember working with you on that, and I remember really enjoying getting a chance to actually discuss with you in depth, the vision, and because I'm with you, the performance is in the story and the emotion and the characters, because ultimately the business is about moments, and the moments that you remember are not very, very, very rarely are the moments some incredible physical feat. They're normally a culmination of a storyline that includes a huge crowd reaction and this emotion, and so to me that was how I was always wired. I was always wired that way, to think, what can I do to create that, or what can we do together to give people that moment